The first three talks in this theatre explore the theme of working with and engaging local communities. So this session looks at using architecture as a way into doing that. I'm going to hand over to Kate, who's going to introduce herself and tell us more about the Little Manhattan Project. Thank you.
Hear me? Oh, they can now. Hello. This is great that we are the first off for using digital innovation. And we are a community and we're collaborating this morning. So thank you very much for coming. I think it's brilliant that you've managed to get around the building works and find the way in. And if you're here just to have a sit down after all of that, you're welcome. So I'd like to introduce you first of all to our team. I've got Joan Redding, who is the Library and Archive Service Manager, and Rosie Vizor, who's the Borough Archivist. And they are both from the Culture, Leisure and Libraries section of the London Borough of Croydon. And I'm Kate Valentine, and I'm the Director of Digital Drama, and we're a multimedia production company creating content in partnership with the cultural and heritage sector. Am I speaking too loud or is that okay? Thumbs up? Cool, thank you very much. So, a bit of a scene setter as to where Rosie and Joan work. Hands up if you know Croydon. Oh yeah, Croydon Posse is here. Well, for those of you who don't know Croydon, I'm going to set the scene. If you've not been to the Clock Tower, you've been missing out on an iconic building in Croydon. It's a vibrant community space right in the heart of the town. The building is attached to the council register office, so lots of people coming and going for that reason. And it hosts the Museum of Croydon, as well as the main library over 2 floors, with generous activity spaces and the Borough Archives, which encompasses the research room, exhibition space and activity room as well. On top of this, it's got the David Lean Cinema, Calat, which is the home of adult educational training, and also, I'd arguably say, the best cafe in Croydon, whose walls act as an art gallery, and it's often filled with the sound of afternoon jazz and chatter. So as you can see, it's a perfect space for a multidisciplinary arts project, heritage project. It's bang in the centre of the community and the perfect place to base a heritage project and cultivate curiosity about the built environment. So today we're going to share with you a little bit of a case study about a project we've literally just finished, just got our last bit of funding, which is fantastic, called Little Manhattan, which is a community heritage project about the transformation of Croydon's built environment between the 1950s and 1970s. And the project was a partnership between the Museum of Croydon, Croydon Archives and Library Service, and Digital Drama Multimedia Production Company. And it started with the kernel, the germ of an idea, which we've just been discussing, which often pushes through if it's somebody's passion, isn't it? So it was the then Borough Archivist, Lindsay, who sadly can't be with us today. She's retired. She's on holiday today, lucky thing. And she knew that there were local stories to be captured about Little Manhattan, which was the nickname, if you don't know, given to Croydon skyline that developed in the post-war building boom. And having worked before with digital drama at the Museum of Croydon, she approached us to collaborate on a plan. And so we put together a successful National Lottery Heritage Fund application on behalf of the partnership. And by the beginning of 2023, we were all systems go. So specifically today, we're going to explore certain aspects of the Little Manhattan Project, namely the power of collaboration, using digital outputs to make museum and archive collections more widely accessible, and using community-driven storytelling to preserve and celebrate our heritage. So key to the power of collaboration we found was that alongside our main project partners at the Museum of Croydon and Archives and Library Service, we recruited a large or wide variety of partner groups within the local community. These included local history societies, as you probably expect, and architecture interest collectives such as the Brutalist Library SE25, who saved the Brutalist Library in South Norwood, which is, if you like brutalism, is a fantastic example of it. We work with TURF, who are a support group for adult artists with additional needs. Rainbows Across Borders, who are an LGBTQ plus refugee group that come from across London and beyond. And Play for Progress, who are based in Croydon, who are a charity that supports unaccompanied refugee minors. As you probably know, the Home Office based in Croydon, a large flow of people seeking asylum coming through Croydon. So the outputs that they helped us create, we recorded new oral histories with people from all ages. I was going to say my age and up, but that doesn't leave that much anymore, with volunteers, as well as the digitization of existing oral histories. We created an audio trail, which some of you have got on your seats there, and we also gave guided walks as part of the London Borough of Culture about Croydon's architecture. And having been on all of those, it was so exciting to see how many people came from across London to be part of those. We made a short film of edited archive material and interviews, which is something digital drama do a lot. And we had family and community printing workshops to create a giant skyline of Croydon, which you'll see some pictures in a bit. This all culminated in a pop-up exhibition tour, which the pop-up you can see on our stand at the moment, and talks in libraries across the borough. And Croydon is a massive borough, very, very diverse. And then we ended up at a residency at the Clock Tower in the Museum of Croydon, in which we included the Skyline exhibition, where everybody's artwork was included, talks, reminiscence sessions, and a story wall and a book for people to share the memories who we hadn't already captured when we were starting the project. And I think for me, we've done quite a few projects like this with larger project partners. But what I really loved about this project was the subject matter was so inclusive and everybody could relate to it, because it didn't matter if you've been in Croydon for 2 weeks or 80 years. You felt that what's around you belongs to you, good or bad. I mean, as you can imagine, it elicited quite a range of opinions. And a lot of people came to us thinking we were the council and we could change things. But yeah, it's all around you. And the stories and the memories of the changing of that skyline people were very passionate about it. As I say, there was no kind of in between. Yeah, it's fine. It was a lot of, oh my God, what did they do? And oh, it's amazing. So yeah, it was an absolute pleasure to work on. And I'm now going to hand over to Rosie, who's going to talk about how digital innovation widened access to the museum and archive collections. Shall I press go? There we go. Thank you. I'll be back.
Can everybody hear me? We attracted a wide range of volunteers to the